You can't achieve anything in life without a small amount of sacrificed Pokemon. Shakira. There have been plenty of Pokemon challenges created throughout the history of the games, from the humble Nuzlocke to the endless Rogue. The beauty of these is that the challenge can be anything you, the player, decides to take on. I personally have only beat one Pokemon game, and that was Pokemon Pearl back on the Nintendo DS. But I have watched far more than a few Nuzlockes and other Pokemon challenges. Recently, a fire has been lit within my veins to beat one game from each generation in order, starting with, well, I didn't plan this pun out, but I'll still take credit for it, starting with Fire Red. But there's a twist. I have created a challenge I like to call the Pokemon Lockout, just to make this journey even more fun. A Nuzlocke challenge that spans more than just one game. I'll explain the rules as we go on, but this is the story of how that journey starts. Can my previous time playing and the experiences of those who came before me carry me to the championship, or will this be a lot harder than I anticipated? Welcome to the Pokemon Lockout Challenge. I'm allergic to rocks hitting me in the face. Hiker Mike Rowe. Fire Red begins with a crucial choice for the game, but an overall safe choice for the challenge. This is because rule number 1 of the Pokemon Lockout Challenge is any Pokemon used in a gym or against the Elite Four will be retired once the game is beat, meaning it and the evolutions in its tree are unusable in future games. Since each generation has a new set of starters, I don't really have to worry about my pick impacting future runs. I can go for the best Pokemon that will carry me on this particular journey, which is Bulbasaur. My rival, who I have named Gary, immediately challenges me before I can leave the lab. This is a great opportunity to show that I'm playing this game with a few external settings, particularly better movesets. Each Pokemon will have a new set of moves that better fits the fight. Along with that, I have a few other settings ticked in the ZI randomizer to make everything more consistent throughout the generations. All ability, type tuning, and Pokemon stats are set to Generation 9. Having updated movesets doesn't mean that the battle AI is actually going to use them well, however. I got a lucky break with that sunny day start. If Gary just hit me each turn, he would have won, but I'll take the easy money. Skipping through the little starter mission to get Oak's bag, I finally get my Pokeballs, thus the challenge fully begins. I'm using normal Nuzlocke catching rules. I must catch the first unique Pokemon I encounter in each uniquely named area. If I fail to catch it, I don't get another try at that Pokemon, even if it's on another route. Some other Nuzlocke rules that I'm using include once a Pokemon faints, it is unusable for the rest of the game. In the case of this challenge, they will be added to the retired list, even if they didn't fight in a gym, which means once they faint, they won't be able to be used in any game. Another rule is that I cannot level Pokemon past the highest level of the next gym. In the first gym's case, that means level 14. I do have unlimited rare candies, but when I started this challenge, I planned to battle every single trainer I saw anyways, mostly to get my Pokemon stronger and to get the money you get as a reward. Money is important early to buy Pokeballs and other items like antidotes. My first encounter is Pidgey. He will become one of the vital parts of this team. Normal flying type Pokemon match pretty well into the majority of types. There's a lot of grass and bug Pokemon early, both to catch and fight, which flying is pretty good against, while simultaneously being one of the typings that doesn't do half damage to other flying types. West of Viridian City is Route 22, where I encounter and capture Rattata. I'm doing this run mostly blind, so I had no idea what the possible couches even were, but I did know that I planned Bulbasaur to do the heavy lifting for the first 4 gyms, as Bulbasaur is either super effective against or resistant to any of the Pokemon in those gyms. So my early game catching will be focused on beefing out my box for late game. At least that's the plan, and you know what they say, no plan finishes each other's sandwiches. Catching Rattata on Route 22 means I can't catch it on Route 2, and I wasn't getting any other new encounters, so I had to move into the Viridian Forest, where I do encounter a Caterpie, who I proceed to one-shot with a crit trying to get it low. That's failed catch number 1, which is abso-heckin-lutely ridiculous because the very next Caterpie I find takes 3 hits from the exact same move. After losing the Caterpie, I go back out of the forest to keep trying for a new encounter on Route 2, but I'm just not getting anything to catch. so I'll have to do the Brock gym on 3 Pokemon, which should be fine thanks to Bulbasaur, but being -2 encounters already kinda hurts. Bulbasaur also carries me through the forest along with the help of Pidgey. Bulby handles anything that can poison, while Pidgey one-shots the rest of the bugs. Reaching the first gym town, I decide to try a few more times and maybe get a new encounter on this last patch of grass, hoping that it has a different pool from the grass in front of the forest, which after 15 tries, the 16th bears fruit, specifically an apple, because Weedle pops out, giving me 4 Pokemon to go into Gym 1 with. The singular regular gym trainer stood no chance, so let's see how Bulbasaur fares against Brock. Grass is super effective against both ground and rock typing, so Vine Whip should do a lot of damage. Alright, that works. I don't have it on set mode just yet, but I do change it after this gym. Next, Brock throws out an Onix. We're on parity in level now, so maybe this one will survive. Never mind. If I can keep Bulbasaur alive, the next 4 gyms will be an absolute cakewalk. A Pokemon is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong it is until you put it in hot water. Pokemon Champion Eleanor Roosevelt. The new level cap is level 21, so I keep my Pokemon around 15 to avoid possible overleveling. There's a lot of trainers between me and the second gym, but also 4 potential Pokemon to add to my team. Many of the trainers here are bug catchers like in the forest. While Bulbasaur doesn't do much damage to bug types, a combination of Leech Seed and Poison Powder whittles down the competition, leading to an evolution into Ivysaur at level 16. However, this isn't the first Evo on my team. Weedle hit its final evolution of Beedrill at a measly level 10. My Route 3 encounter is Spearow. I don't see him getting too much use as I already have a Pidgey, but insurance is always nice in a challenge like this. I rare candy myself up to level 17 at the end of Route 3 before heading back to Pewter City for my 1 allowed Pokestop per major destination. To avoid Pokestop spamming, I'm giving myself 1 full rest at the previous Pokestop. Once I start a route or set of routes, I won't get another one until I reach the goal of that route. Usually that means another Pokestop or the next city, but in some cases, if the goal of the route is not a lane between 2 locations, then completing the special objective counts. The only exception to this rule is if one of my Pokemon faint. Then I get a free Pokestop visit for the rest of my team, meaning I can potentially sacrifice a Pokemon to save others. But it turns out I didn't need to go back to Pewter City since a stop was right ahead of where I turned back. In that stop, I find a Magikarp from a seller. Static Pokemon like this or legendaries don't count against the unique encounter rules for this challenge, so I can still catch something else on Route 4, for example. But before that, in Mount Moon, I catch a Zubat, putting me finally over a full team of Pokemon so I can actually have options now. Nearby, I find the TM for Bullet Seed, which I immediately teach to Ivysaur. It's a grass move that shoots 2 to 5 seeds that have 25 power each. This has, at the very least, 5 more power than Vine Whip, and potentially 85 more power if all 5 seeds hit, a pretty big upgrade. Mount Moon also introduces me to Team Rocket. I don't know it yet, but they will become the bane of my existence in this game. Not because of their strength, but because of the stupid puzzles that they put me through. But that's a speed ramp we'll cross later. For now, the feature fight of Mount Moon is Super Nerd Miguel. This is like a preview of the Gym 4 leader as he rocks a Coughing and Grimer, with a Voltorb thrown in. It's a great showcase for Ivysaur's new Bullet Seed, which nearly one-shots the Grimer with a 4-seed barrage despite it not being very effective against a poison type. The rest of his Pokemon go down in short order afterwards. I pick up a fossil as my reward and head out of the caves, getting to Route 4 where I add another poison type to my roster, Ekans, who will be pretty useful throughout the run. That's the last thing before Cerulean City and Missy's Gym. I level my Pokemon to 20 in preparation in case I need backup for Ivysaur. I don't think I will, but it does lead to 4 separate evolutions, leaving my team consisting of Pidgeotto, Fearow, Raticate, Beedrill, Ivysaur, and Gyarados. Heading into the gym, this is where my gauntlet rule applies. Every trainer I see in a gym must be battled. If they appear on my screen and are reasonable to reach, I gotta battle them. This can lead to using more Pokemon than I would like inside a gym, so I have to plan my teams accordingly to avoid adding any to the retired list. This gym has 1 more regular trainer than the last, but it doesn't make a difference as Bulbasaur clears them all out. And I just gotta ask, does this guy sit in the water all day? I shall dub him Prune, champion of the wrinkled waters. But in the end, he gets the last wrinkled laugh upon me as I accidentally click on Misty before leveling my Pokemon to 21 because I was busy thinking about how ridiculous he was. However, based on how things have gone so far, this shouldn't be a problem. She starts with a level 18 Staryu, a pure water type, so you know how that goes. Then she throws out a Starmie, a water psychic dual type, who's about to inflict some psychological damage upon me with a reality check. A taste of my own medicine that had my jaw on the floor for a full minute. A Pokemon 101 lesson on speed and Poison's huge weakness to psychic types. A lesson that I didn't fully learn apparently, as after deliberation I threw out Beedrill. I was tunnel visioning on the Bug versus Psychic type matchup. Bug is good into Psychic, so I was banking on getting my hits off first. Beedrill has Twin Needle, which is the Bug equivalent of Bullet Seed. Starmie still has the speed advantage, but uses Mimic, which doesn't do anything. Twin Needle hits, but only shoots 2 needles, which is a bit unlucky. It does, however, poison Starmie. I decide to let the poison do its job and choose Harden, which would have worked until I get introduced to the Hyper Potion. Another lesson that I should just go for the throat next time. This time, Misty doesn't fool around and her Starmie uses Psychic, one-shotting Beedrill and sending my jaw to the floor again. Maybe now I will learn the dangers of dual typing. Gyarados is my damage control. He has the Dark type move Bite, which is super effective into Starmie's Psychic typing. It's going to take more than one hit, but so will Starmie's attacks on Gyarados. In the end, it doesn't even get another chance to hit when it uses Mimic to steal my Bite. It wouldn't have mattered as the next Bite brings the monster down, leaving 2 of my Pokemon gone in its wake, but earning me the Water Pulse TM, which I immediately put on Gyarados. However, it is a solemn reward as I am going to have to be more careful with my planning if I'm going to beat this game. It's electric, boogie woogie woogie. Oh, it's shocking. It's electric, boogie woogie woogie. The electric slide. I'm now down to only 6 Pokemon again, but there's plenty of routes to get unique encounters from. 2 of them lie north of the town that we are in, leading to a surprise rival fight as I head up there. Sadly for Gary, I'm way overleveled for this fight. The game probably assumes that you go this route before you do the gym. My Route 24 encounter is Oddish, a good replacement for Ivysaur as a grass-poison hybrid. Sadly, it doesn't keep me above 6 Pokemon for long. On the very first battle of Route 25, my Zubat gets one-shot. Oddish would be shaking in their boots if they weren't in my PC box. So far, being a poison dual type seems to be a curse on my team. I take my free Poké Center heal and make it to the end of Route 25 without any more casualties. Upon reaching the end, I meet a talking Pokemon named Bill, who is actually a human. The ethics of a machine that can soul meld humans with Pokemon will have to be explored later, as helping him change back awards us with a cruise ticket, which will be our ticket to the HM Cut. Before leaving Route 25 with my reward, I encounter an Abra who wants no part in my soul binding philosophy as he pieces out the very first turn, leading to yet another failed encounter. In total, I have lost, whether failing to capture or fainting, almost as many Pokemon as I have on my team. So it is time to lock in. Route 5 encounter, Meowth, captured. They're gonna be my HM bum. Anything that they can learn, I'm throwing on them. Which isn't a lot for now, but when I get them, yes. And that's it for locking in. Fire Red has an incredibly small Pokemon pool for routes. Route 6 has absolutely nothing I can catch unless I get a good or better fishing rod. That doesn't mean I didn't try though, because a certain site, which shall not be named, said that I could catch a Mankey here, which is just flat out wrong. But it did lead me on a wild goose chase for about an hour. Between fishing and going into the tall grass, I just couldn't catch anything. It also says that there are no Meowths on Route 6 in Fire Red, but again, clearly very wrong as I encountered more Meowths than any other Pokemon here. The universe is just against me filling up my Pokébox. And I'm included in that universe cause, you know, yeah. Anyways, I cut my losses and head to the cruise ship that is docked in town. I know the HM is here somewhere on the ship, but I don't know exactly where. I need it to get to the 3rd gym and a few other places that could beef up my box. I start on lower levels, planning to make my way up, but I don't get very far before tragedy strikes once again. It turns out that being badly poisoned is a lot worse than just being poisoned. Do I know what causes it? No. But I found out that it is not something to take lightly as it ticks away at my Gyarados until it's doing 20 damage per tick. I can't escape being stuck on 6 Pokemon even if I tried. The sacrifice does let me collect everything on the bottom floor, but when I get upstairs there's another surprise waiting for me. And all I gotta say is Gary needs to chillax with these jump scares, man. This time I'm not overleveled for the fight, with his Pidgeotto leading off against my Raticate. I begin with Focus Energy, which will boost my next attack, while Pidgeotto uses Sand Attack to lower my accuracy. I follow up with a Tail Whip to lower his defense, and get gusted for my troubles. Quick Attack does a little under half HP to Pidgeotto with another Sand Attack that causes my next attack to miss. The next two land, however, bringing the bird crashing down. The fight jump scare came before I used my healing potions on my Pokemon, so when Charmeleon comes out, my swap options are limited. I swap into Fearow and get hit by Seismic Toss from a heckin' Charmeleon of all things. Fury Attack does a bit of damage, but Ember brings Fearow to critical, forcing me to switch to Meowth, hoping no Seismic Toss comes through. Which it does, and my Payday attack does less than I hoped, which means my own Pidgeotto has to take out the Charmeleon. A level 16 Raticate is next from Gary. 2 quick hits is all it takes to bring down, but not before my Pidgeotto is down to 11 HP. One last Pokemon remains for Gary, a Kadabra. Obviously, the answer is switching to my Gloom, right? One day I'll learn my poison lesson, but this time it's not a poison Pokemon that falls. It's my own Raticate. The Raticate sacrifice gives me a free switch into Pidgeotto, and a quick attack wins the game. Well, this battle. So much for actually locking in, am I right? I blame the Route 6 debacle personally. It surely isn't a problem with my leadership and decision making, I tell you. The captain of the boat gives me the HM cut, unlocking a few places for me to go and collect Pokemon from. A soul-searching journey is just the thing I need to get this challenge back on track, because I'm gonna be honest, I was thinking about restarting at this point. Instead, I reset my approach. No more battling every trainer I see. There's no point in money and stats if I run out of Pokemon. My first stop is Diglett's Cave. As the name suggests, I encounter a Diglett, which will be my ace for the upcoming Electric Gym. To speed things up even more, I started using Max Repels. No point in encountering Pokemon that I can't catch. I deemed Diglett enough to absolutely crush the third gym, so I don't go for any more routes before I begin my gym prep, getting everyone to level 23, just below the level cap of 24. The puzzle of the gym involves looking in trash bins, or maybe under, I don't really know. All I know is that you need to click 2 buttons in a row, and they move when you fail. This is just a warm-up for my later troubles with puzzles, but I'm having no troubles with the trainers in here. Diglett is taking them down one by one with magnitude and velocity. Eventually I find the correct trash bin to look under, leading to Lieutenant Surge and the first 3 Pokemon Gym Leader battle. But if I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't even a contest. Grass grows, birds fly, sun shines, and brother, I keep losing poison Pokemon. The Scout, TF2. Getting to the next gym will be a bit of a journey, as Route 12 is blocked by a sleeping Snorlax, so you have to go all the way around the map to get to Celadon City. Along the way, Route 11 gives me a Drowsy, which I successfully capture. Route 9 has nothing unique to encounter, but it does have a hiker with this Geodude. A Geodude that knows self-destruct, and thus the poison curse continues. As a replacement, I find a Voltorb on Route 10, really hoping it didn't have self-destruct at this point. A hope that is realized once I check its moves after I capture it. This leads me down into the rock tunnel, where I put my flash on my HM Junkie Meowth, a place in which I encounter Mankey, which I catch. There's a tight level 29 cap for the next gym, which means some of the trainers in this tunnel are only 1 level below my Pokemon. Despite that, things are going smooth sailing until I run into another Geodude. Thankfully, this time it's not self-destruct, but I certainly self-destructed. I'm given a quick tutorial on how Substitute can really hurt you if you don't know how to play around it, forcing me to give my HMs to other Pokemon, like Cut to Diglett. Not sure how a Diglett can cut down trees with those bald heads of theirs and no hands, but I'm sure something happens under the surface, that's gotta be it. And honestly, I don't really want to know. The rest of the rock tunnel goes without a hitch, leading me to a little town that houses the Pokemon Tower. I heard some rumors that there's some spooky stuff going on in there, and since I'm on a tight level cap, I decide to skip it for now. Route 8 gives me exactly what I need for the grass gym that's coming up. A Growlithe. Charizard is cool, but Arcanine is my favorite fire-type Pokemon from Gen 1, hands down. With my Growlithe caught, the city is just 1 tunnel away, where I find some interesting things. Celadon is like this region's Las Vegas, complete with slots galore and a Pokemall, which has an entire Team Rocket hideout within it, but we'll cross that speed ramp when we get to it. I'm already pushing close to the gym cap as it is. Looking through the shops, I find one that sells evolution stones, so it is a no-brainer decision to get a Firestone for my Growlithe, evolving it into Arcanine. I level my whole team to 28 for the gym, but I have to include Diglett in my team because it's the only Pokemon that can learn Cut, despite its extreme uselessness coming up. Not to worry, as Arcanine solos the first 4 trainers with Pidgeotto handling the 5th, after which I take my one allowed Pokestop heal and head in for the final fights. At least, I thought it would be fights. I was 100% sure that the 2 ladies flanking the gym leader would fight me first, but it looks like I'm heading into the big boss right away. Since I thought I had a couple more fights before the leader, once again I didn't fully level my Pokemon to the cap, but that might just make it more of a fair fight now. My team is absolutely stacked against this gym. Between multiple flying types and a pure fire type, the advantage needle is well towards me. The victory bell doesn't do much to change that as it goes down with 2 quick pecks, one of them being a critical hit that removes the need for a 3rd peck. Vileplume makes things a bit annoying after getting the peck treatment as she uses Stun Spore to paralyze my Fearow. And how about you give that subscribe button the peck treatment down there? I promise you it's a super effective move. After an attempt to bypass the paralyze, I swap out to Pidgeotto, who is at the level cap. I know he'll get at least 1 attack in, and I hope that one kills. But the wing attack leaves Vileplume on literally 1 HP, leading to yet another Sun Spore. The low HP means that it's time for good old potions to come out. One of the rules I'm running, but may change in the future, is that I don't get to use any active items in battle. But I did consider making the rule 1 potion per potion used by my opponent. I don't think I'll need it this fight, but it's worth mentioning, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. With Vileplume back at half, I swap out to Arcanine to get another hit before Stun Spore comes out again. But the Ember doesn't do nearly as much damage as I hope it would do, so it leads to my 3rd paralyzed Pokemon. Thankfully, the last Pokemon Erica has is level 24, so it only takes 1 Ember getting through the paralyzed to finish the battle. Afterwards, I did try to battle the last 2 trainers, but they just talked about how wonderful their leader was and that was it. At least I can say I tried. Everyone's got their poison, and mine have all fainted. Athlete Derek Rose. The next level cap covers 2 separate gyms, but gives a lot of room not to go over thanks to it sitting at level 43. I set my team to 33 and head out on a long journey south to the next city. This leg of the game is my best chance to fix my Pokemon box problem, with 5 opportunities for unique encounters, starting with the Pokemon Tower where I run into Gary again. This time, however, he won't be doing any permanent damage to my team. I'm so overleveled for this fight because I did Gym 4 before coming here, but that might be intended, as it turns out I need a specific item to see any of the Pokemon in here. An item that comes from the Team Rocket hideout I mentioned earlier. Speaking of early, if you remember back to Mount Moon, I mentioned Team Rocket will become my biggest rivals in this game, and it all starts with this hideout here. Puzzles where I can't visualize the entire thing on the same screen are my kryptonite, but I'd lie if I said using these speed ramps wasn't fun. Ironically, if I still had the same strategy of fighting everyone I saw, I would have solved this puzzle a lot sooner. This elevator here requires a key to activate, one that is held by a random grunt down in the break room. Overall, it took me 34 minutes to figure out I actually needed to battle this guy. Considering this video is already super long, I can't give a full explanation of my actions here, just that it takes another 8 minutes to make my way to the office of the Team Rocket leader, Giovanni, who my Primeape absolutely solos, so it's not even that big of a deal. I kind of expected a guy like him would be a bit stronger. As a reward, I collect the fancy goggles that will let me see the Pokemon in the tower, which turns out to be Ghastly, a wonderful addition to my team as ghost types will be very useful against the 6th gym thanks to it being a psychic type gym. The rest of the tower is a cakewalk, one that gets me a magical flute from this old guy who Team Rocket was holding captive. This allows me to head back to Route 12 where the sleeping Snorlax is laying. The flute has the power to wake up any napping Pokemon, leading to a battle with the Groggy Grump, who gets a Pokeball to the rump for his insolence. Shortly after, I get access to an absolute godsend, the Super Rod. This adds even more possibilities to my encounters in routes that I've already explored and didn't catch anything on. Fishing in Route 6 gets me a Poliwag, and Vermilion City gets me a Horsia, which evolves into one of the few dragon types in the game, Kingdra. Sadly, Viridian City and Route 23 gave me nothing from fishing, but I ain't gonna complain now that I'm finally beefing out my box. I only really miss out on a Psyduck from either of these fishing spots anyways. Back on the journey to Gym 5 sees me catch a Venonat on 13 and a Ditto on Route 14. Finally, in Fuchsia proper, I fish up a Goldeen. I did try my luck at the Safari Zone, but the Rhyhorn I find flees the battle after I fail to catch it with my very first fall. Another failed encounter, but I don't think I'll need a Rhyhorn. My full focus is now on Gym 5, whose leader has a bunch of poison Pokemon. The other gym trainers were a bit of a mixed bag. Some of them are Psychic trainers, while the others are poison like their leader. It also has an invisible maze puzzle, but out of all the puzzles in the game, this by far is the easiest one. My team going into Kaga is Dugtrio, Venomoth, Gengar, Arbok, and Pidgeot. Don't ask me why I'm not using the Drowsy I caught, which is actually a Hypno at this point. Honestly, I thought Dugtrio would sweep and I didn't want to add Hypno to the retired list. So I guess you could have asked me because I literally just explained it. I also kept my Pokemon at level 40 to avoid going over the cap because I still can't go over 43 before Gym 6. Hopefully that won't come back to bite me, as Kaga starts with a level 37 Coughing against my Dugtrio. And here's where my prep completely falls apart. Coughing may not be a flying type, but the game does consider it to be flying in the air thanks to Levitate. So my ground type moves are going to have zero effect on it. This forces an immediate pivot into Arbok. Thankfully, this Coughing just makes it Sunny, which doesn't do anything to stop Arbok's bites. Bringing back the tactics I used all the way on Route 24 and 25 to deal with poison Pokemon. 2 bites gets Coughing into Hyper Potion range, which is great for me since Kaga can't use it on anyone else. But I tried to conserve PP. But I tried to conserve PP by finishing with Poison Sting, so I had some more bites left to use later in the fight, which is never punished thanks to the critical hit on the next bite I use. And Coughing finally uses a damage move, which is Thunder? Interesting move to have. I still didn't learn that I should go for the throw, as my next Poison Sting leaves Coughing on 1 HP for it to get another Thunder off, which paralyzes Arbok. Swapping into Pidgeot loses half its HP, but I use Quick Attack to get the job done. Kaga sending out Muck means I can finally use my Dugtrio, so I swap into that. Muck also has Thunder, which doesn't have any effect on Dugtrio. I was rubbing my hands together as I hit Magnitude, expecting it to one-shot, only for it to do less than half of Muck's HP. I'll just have to do it again and everything. Not very effective, my ass. That did even more than my super effective Magnitude. Alarm bells were blaring as I tried to decide which Pokemon to put in next, so I throw out Arcanine. I don't need him to be super effective, I just need him to put in some work. Ember does a bit more chip damage, and the returning Sludge Bomb doesn't poison Arcanine, so it's all good. But Muck must have thought this matchup was pretty boring because it falls asleep, fully healing it with Rest. I'll honestly take it, as it gives Arcanine a few free turns of damage, and Burn Fishing is what I would have done. Instead, I take 2 turns to lower Muck's physical defense, only to hit him with another Ember. My weakness as a trainer was starting to show. Mistakes that are punished with a Sludge Bomb that does actually poison me. I can't afford to lose my Arcanine, so I swapped to Venomoth, who I actually forgot had Psybeam this whole time. 2 beams forced the Muck back into sleep to recover, giving me a chance to show I actually can learn by using 3 free Psybeams. It results in a confusion and... okay, I'm just going to... there we go, the big guy is down, just 2 more Pokemon to go. And out comes the true raid boss, a level 43 Weezing. Venomoth is already hurt, so I aim to do as much damage as I can to this thing before it goes down, who turns out to have heckin' Flamethrower. I swear, the poison dual type has to be an actual curse. I was joking before, but results speak for themselves, and they're not very good. My team is in absolute shambles right now, until I learn Gengar is a poison dual type. Surely this time it will be different. All his moves are dark type, but it doesn't appear Weezing has anything that it can do much to get Gengar back. So a few hits later and oh come on! How many consumables does this guy have? I thought there was only ever 1 per trainer. How many times am I gonna have to teach you this lesson, old man? This brings out the last Coughing, which I decide to face with my Pidgeot. Gengar was too crucial for the next gym, so I couldn't lose him, and I was banking that this one didn't have Thunder as well, which it turns out to be a pretty good gamble on my part because it has Protect instead. I became insane, with long intervals of horrible sanity. Edgar Allan Pokemon. I decide to bike up Route 17 instead of going all the way back through Route 12. Along the way I catch a Doodao, but I doubt I'll actually be using it much for my team. As I pass Route 16 and even wade in the grass a bit to try and find a new encounter, I'm sure some of you are hoping that I go just a bit further left. Even I'm yelling at my past self because I don't know what I'm passing by here. But I was so focused on beating the next gym that most of my exploration went out the window. That includes trying to find out how to get past the guards. Ironically, earlier in the Pokemall, I found out the old solution. In original Pokemon Red, the vending machines at the top of the tower give out drinks that you could give to the guards. Now it's tea from a random lady in this building here, and the old version does not work. I make my way into the city and found the fighting dojo. Just in case it was a real gym, I made sure my team had a bunch of poison and psychic types on it, which turns the dojo into, I don't know how to make a dojo pun here, so I'll just say that it was pretty easy. The end reward is a choice between Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. That all leads to my magnum opus of failing at puzzles in a children's game. Like I said before, when I can't visualize the entire puzzle, I'm completely lost. Who the heck would design an office building like this anyways? It takes me 1 hour and 43 minutes to fight my way through and get to the big boss at the top, a rematch with Giovanni. And just for those who know the solution to the puzzle, let me put this here. I have to admit that I had to look up the solution. I swear I hit every teleporter except that specific one. To add insult to injury, there is a rival fight before Giovanni. I'm coming into this pretty healthy, just my Snorlax missing some HP, but even then he has more than the rest of my team. Seeing Pidgeot first, I bring out my Electrode, who paralyzes the bird after taking a single hit and zaps back for 70% of Pidgeot's HP. A quick spark finishes the job, leading into Gary throwing out his Gyroscope. A pretty odd move, but I don't look a gift dragon in the mouth. I charge up and try to make my next attack one shot, but get thrown a curveball in the form of a bunch of toxic waste as Electrode gets badly poisoned by toxic. I think the game is just trying to insult me with this one. However, my plan works. Hitting a spark does actually one-shot the troll, but the damage is already done. Likely the best thing Gary could have done in that particular matchup. I swap to Snorlax as there's no way I'm losing another Pokemon to badly poison, leading to a Leech Seed from Gary's Execute. Being down HP doesn't matter as much as my Snorlax has a pretty sick combo. Rest restores full HP in one turn, then Snore damages while Snorlax is asleep. I just wish that it was as effective as it was cool. The Snore doesn't even do that much damage thanks to Execute's Reflect. Even worse, Execute has Dream Eater of all moves, making me wonder if Gary is the one prepping for me rather than the other way around. And my Snore damage can't even keep up with the Leech Seed absorb, so this was really just a waste of time. Hypno comes in to bail out my Snorlax. It's a free switch as Execute uses Dream Eater once again. A couple rounds of testing the waters on my damage brings Gary's Pokemon down to half HP before he Leech Seeds me again. My Psychic moves don't do too much against this thing, so I do the next best thing, Headbutt to flinch. And now that he was at half HP, 2 more Psychics bring it down. It still did a decent amount of damage, it just wasn't very efficient. But you know what they say, I'd rather be inefficient than efficient and dead. I probably could have left out the efficient part of that saying, but hey, it speaks for itself. Gary's Alakazam is met with my Kingdra. Under no circumstances can I lose this thing, it's gonna be way too good later in the game. But I still don't want to risk anything else, so I'm gonna have to take a bit of a gamble. Thankfully, Alakazam doesn't do too much. Just a couple of future sights and that's about it. Multiple twisters take him down. Talk about being inefficient on his part, am I right? Leading to the last Pokemon, Charizard. Bubble doesn't do nearly as much damage as I would like. Thankfully, Charizard only has one move that can hurt me back, but he does have the Days of Future Past on his side, as from the grave, Alakazam hits for 25 damage. However, that's barely enough HP to get another hit off, so I bubble again to squeak out a little bit more damage, hoping no crit comes my way, and I hoped correctly because Kingdra's left on 5 HP. All I need to do is use Primeape to chop his way through the rest of this Dragon Hide and we're home free. All I need is for Arbok to burn through the rest of that Dragon Hide with acid and we win. Let's go. No casualties at all. Just ignore me going to the Pokestop and changing out a few Pokemon for the Giovanni fight. Everything should be good. Let's just get into fight number 2, the real rival fight. I use Hypnosis to put the Nidorino to sleep for some of the free turns that I get for setup and damage. A second bubble nearly brings the beast down, but it does give me a helping hand with Double Edge, taking itself out, one Pokemon down. That must have made their mother mad, as Nidoqueen is next. Honestly, perfectly fine by me. Iron Tail does nothing to my Politoed, while Bubble takes out a third of the Queen's HP. I just need to do that 2 more times, and why Giovanni didn't start with that move, I don't know. But we're not going to let Politoed go unavenged as I bring out Arbok. Bite finishing the Queen off. 2 Pokemon down. Rhyhorn means Arbok can't stay in, so I swap to Hitmonchan, who eats an Earthquake. I equipped Hitmon with various elemental punches, and Ice Punch works perfectly here. One punch taking half Rhyhorn's HP, and getting another Earthquake in return. But I'm confident this thing doesn't have quick attack, so my speed advantage means the second punch seals the deal. 3 Pokemon down. Finally, out comes Kangaskhan, which is an absolutely wild Pokemon name by the way, let alone for the very first generation of Pokemon. My answer to this is Electrode, with a charge setup and a Shockwave for next turn. I'm brought down to 40 HP for the trouble, but I was hoping that the next wave finishes the job. Which it doesn't, and the next secret power paralyzes my Electrode. Thankfully the con was already pretty low, so Arbok the finisher comes in to take her down. And man, those were 2 pretty hard fights. Stark contrast to the actual gym that's here. It doesn't give me much troubles at all. I can't say the same for the puzzle inside the gym. Another dang teleporter puzzle leads me to fight every single trainer there. At this point, you know how me and puzzles go. At the end of it all, 90% was trying to solve the actual puzzle, and the rest was fighting the gym leader. But as I said, the real boss battles in this chapter are behind us. Success is a result of spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire. The Human Torch. There's 2 ways to get to the next gym on Cinnabar Island. One of the ways is through the Seafoam Islands, but that requires completing a boulder puzzle, and after the puzzles I just went through, I'm over it. Which would be a lot easier if I had Fly, but at this point I honestly forgot it was in the game. However, I do catch a Tentacool on Route 19 while I'm over here. However, I already have plenty of water types, so I plan to save a Tentacool for other games because I know they're pretty prevalent in at least another one. I actually do have the item I need to get the Strength HM to move the rocks, I just don't know it at this time. So I walk all the way around the map to Pallet Town. On Route 21, I catch a Tangela, something that can replace all the grass types I've lost, and giving me a double threat for the final gym. But before that, I need to find the Cinnabar gym leader. He's somewhere in this Pokemon mansion where a bunch of super nerds are running tests and experiments. I can't knock them too much though, as they give me an Aerodactyl and later a Lapras from the various things I bring them. On top of all that, I find a Coughing inside the mansion, and I am so glad that I was super overleveled for any of the Pokemon here. Max Repel will be my best friend from now on inside this mansion. The rest of the mansion has a puzzle with a bunch of statues that open and close the gates. Easy enough in theory, but I end up having to look up the solution because you're supposed to jump off a 2-story balcony to get to the basement. This leads me to find the key that unlocks the gym. Once I actually get into the gym, Kingdra basically solos the entire thing. Exactly the reason Coughing would have ruined my day if it actually blew up my beautiful boy. Blaine doesn't even get Kingdra to half HP during our fight. Surf 1 or 2-shotting everything the gym leader throws out. Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground. Teddy Urso Roosevelt. Everything so far has led to this milestone, the penultimate challenge before the Elite Four Gauntlet. No more games, no more puzzles, just me and the final gym. At this point, I was ready to get to that gauntlet. I need every single Pokemon alive so that I can try to beat the final bosses. The pairing of Tangela and Kingdra should be enough to beat whoever the final gym leader is. But the other gym trainers throw me for a bit of a loop. The gym has ground, poison, rock, and fighting type trainers, forcing me to use Pokemon like Hypno and Gengar on top of my planned Kingdra and Tangela. Beating every trainer in here brings me to the final gym boss, my true rival, Giovanni. Who I absolutely wiped the floor with. Should have stuck with your previous team, Geo. That gave me even more trouble than the one you have right now. Just like most of the other gyms, there was no contest to be found here. Let's go. Get your ass back to Team Rocket, I'm blasting off to the championship. I wanted to end chapter 8 right there, but honestly, the writing was just too good not to acknowledge. Giovanni being the final gym leader, absolutely cinema. But at the time, I was solely focused on finishing Fire Red. Everything in my brain was going towards beating the Elite Four. So let's see if I can actually do it. The last 3 or 4 badges is what makes the trainer grow. This area of pain divides the champion from someone who is not the champion. Bruno, probably, I don't know. I was honestly pretty excited to prep for the Elite Four. I always love theory crafting and Pokemon has plenty of it. Whether I'm good at theory crafting Pokemon? Who knows, we're gonna find out. My box was definitely not as strong as it could be. At this point, I had lost nearly as many Pokemon as I had available to use. Between the ones lost in battle and the catch fails, I was down 15 Pokemon with only 18 left to utilize. The end of Fire Red is a gauntlet of mixed bags. With only the original generation of Pokemon, a fighting type Elite Four member looks like this, and a ghost type looks like this. Not to mention a very final rival fight at the end. Each of the 5 fights was going to take something different to beat. I spent nearly half an hour crafting what I thought would be the winning ticket, but before I could actually go to Victory Row, there are a few more prizes left in store for me. Namely, the perfect test of my team theory against the final fight of the game. My team was in order for the first fight of the Elite Four, so I had Hitmonchan leading off, which actually turns out to be pretty good because he has Thunder Punch for Pidgeot, doing about a third of his HP, while only losing a small amount in return. Flying is super effective into fighting, but Hitmonchan has the HP to tank it, taking an Aerial Ace and giving another Thunder Punch back. I'm not about to lose one of my Elite Four Pokemon though, so I swap into Aerodactyl, who has Ancient Power. Pidgeot is handled. Next on the list is Gyarados, who I match with my Kingdra. Neither have any super effective moves to hit each other with. Twister does a bit of damage, but all Gyarados has here is Thrash, which causes him to confuse himself on the second use. My whole strategy here is to play the level game. I had a decent advantage in this fight, so if I can just keep my Pokemon healthy, I can win in the non-counter matchups. A swap to Gengar into a Shadow Ball knocks Gyarados off the list. Gary throws out Executor next, playing right into my planned matchup with Gengar, leading to short work in just 2 hits. 3 Pokemon down, 3 to go. Alakazam is next, once again playing right into my hand as a single Shadow Ball takes him down. 4 gone, 2 to go. I have no counter to ride on, but it doesn't matter that much. The level difference is too wide of a gap. I start with a Confused Ray and chip away at that HP. He doesn't even get a lick in, unless you count punching himself, then he gets plenty of hits in. Finally, Charizard comes out. Kingdra is my original plan to deal with him, but being half HP, I send out Aerodactyl instead. Still a counter matchup, just not the one I had planned. Charizard gets 1 Heat Wave in, which isn't very effective, before taking some Ancient Power to the face and getting absolutely obliterated. That rival fight was just the appetizer I needed to prepare myself for the main course. High confidence for high protein. That is, until I learned that there's one more puzzle to solve on my way to the Elite Four. One that I wasn't going to be able to go around this time. I was going to need the HM strength. Which is when I finally realized that I already had what I needed. I had a golden tooth from the Safari Zone. The problem is, I wasn't about to make my way all the way around the map, so I finally looked up where I could get Fly from. Yeah, I feel pretty stupid right now. But it's fine, it's just a quick 15-minute adventure to get the HMs and clear the way through Victory Road. My full focus was on beating the Elite Four, managing to grab everything I need and finish the puzzle without having to fight anyone in the process. Now it is time to finish Fire Red. The Elite Four awaits. Hitmonchan was my ice answer, at least for 3 of Lorelei's Pokemon. 2 of them are half psychic, so he can't be in there for that. But he is in there to hit them with Mach Punch. Unfortunately, the Dugong crits with his Ice Beam, doing half of Chan's HP. But the speed advantage sees me striking First Blood against the Elite Four. Jinx is one of those Psychic dual types, so I'm gonna have to swap out. Ghost is pretty good into Psychic, so Gengar is my guy here, but he gets instantly put to sleep. I decide to hope for a turn 1 wake up, but it doesn't come through. And I'm not sure it can come through, maybe there's 1 guaranteed sleep turn, I don't really know yet. I hope for a turn 2 wake up, but things are about to get nightmarish. A reoccurring nightmare. I forgot that Gengar was a poison dual type. So yeah, he's great into Psychic as a ghost, but it's a two-way street, and yet again, the poison dual type curse comes back to literally haunt me here. Not how I hoped this matchup would have gone. For my free swap out, I go to Arbok. And okay, I can explain what I'm thinking here. The only other Pokemon I have with a super effective move on my team is Arbok with his Bite. My hope is that Jinx only has Dream Eater as a damaging psychic move. I plan to swap if Arbok gets put to sleep. The first bite chunks the Jinx for a little over a third of her HP, while I get an amazing break with Lovely Kiss missing. Another bite from Arbok is answered with a Water Pulse. It appears my gamble is paying off so far. It's probably because Arbok is a pure poison type. It's all been the dual types. Lorelei uses full restore on Jinx, so it's gonna take another 3 bites to bring this monster down. I'm really hoping that she only has 1 full restore to use. Another bite brings her back to critical, and yet again the kiss misses. Arbok is either really focused or he's really fast. My luck continues with a critical hit on the last bite. The Arbok gamble worked out, for now. Then comes the other psychic dual type, Slowbro, giving me a big decision to make. Do I risk Arbok staying out? The answer is yes, we send it. And the first bite gets a flinch. And then the second bite gets a flinch. And the third bite finishes him off. See, it's not a poison problem, it's a poison dual type problem. Nothing bad ever happens to the Arboks. Now that the psychics are out of the way, thanks to Arbok the finisher, I can swap back to Hitmonchan, who takes a bit of chip damage for it. He can at least take down the Cloyster, which should go down in 3 punches, one doing, once again, a little over a third HP. Should being the key word, however, as Hitmonchan gets hit with a Hyper Beam for the remainder of his HP. The second loss of the battle for my side. I send out Hypno to rein things in a bit, his Psychic doing more damage than Hitmonchan's super effective punch did. I'm starting to wonder if I should have used Hypno more often this run, but that is thought for later as I have to try to salvage this fight. One last Pokemon remains, a Lapras, which Psychic does some underwhelming damage to. Lapras uses Blizzard in response, doing about the same amount of damage back to Hypno. I'm going for Confusion this time. Lapras will help me chip away at its own HP. The Confusion damage does proc a berry, but I'll take any free things I can get. Another Confuse keeps it up, but Lapras gets another Blizzard off anyways. It's a battle of who can chip away the fastest. A battle I win as 2 more hits finishes the job. Being down 2 Pokemon already is pretty bad, but one of the losses already did his job, so maybe this is still salvageable. I'm going into the next Elite member with less Pokemon than my opponent for the first time this entire run. It's a 4v5, but this is the fight that I'm least worried about. Now some of you may be wondering, why is this a Steelix instead of an Onix? Any Pokemon level 40 or above will automatically be fully evolved, which I didn't really understand the ramifications of when I made that change. I hadn't been looking at the Elite Four when I ticked the box. I assumed they would all just be fully evolved anyways. It matters not, as Kendra's Surf still one-shots, and it one-shots the next Steelix too. The rest of Bruno's Pokemon are fighting types, so I bring out Hypno into Hitmonlee, a Lee who has Metronome, so he could luck into one-shotting my Hypno. But luck was on my side still. A Confusion into Psychic is the 1-2 punch combo that brings Lee down, only losing 60 HP in the process. With 2 more fighters to go, that should be enough. Hitmonchan is next, who gets absolutely mollywopped down to critical HP in 1 hit. He does get a Rock Tomb off, lowering my speed, which is big for him. I know the full restore is coming out, so I use Confusion, taking half of Hitmonchan's HP again, with a follow-up hit finishing him off, leaving just a Machamp to deal with where that debuff in speed comes into play, his Earthquake taking a bit over 50 HP off my Hypno, while Hypno Psychic nearly one-shots him. But I can't take another hit like that, so I swap over to my tried and true Arbok the finisher. Earthquake will be super effective, but it'll take more than 2 hits to take me down, so I'm pretty confident Arbok can finish it. 1 acid brings Machamp into lethal range, while Arbok is on 15 HP, but I have the speed advantage now. Despite having the speed advantage, I still don't risk it just in case Bruno has 2 full HP restores. Instead, I swap into Aerodactyl, thinking the Earthquakes won't do much into my flying type. Hyper Beam does a little under half HP, and a fundamental mechanic to Hyper Beam was lost on me until after this fight. You see, you lose a turn after using it, so when the second Hyper Beam doesn't kill, it leaves me wide open for a Chop into Rock Slide combo. Earthquakes may not work, but Rocks sure do. I almost got out of this fight without losing anyone. Kingdra comes out to end the fight, but things are still in dire straits. Despite that, I'm still going to attempt the Ghost-type Elite Four member. I have Arbok, whose bite is even worse than his bark. It was my turn to face the Gengar with my super effective move. One bite does a little under half HP. Bite 2 leaves Gengar on a sliver of HP, leading to a full restore on Gengar number 1. It takes 3 more bites to take it down with barely any damage suffered on my part. Gengar number 2 gets bit once, but I was running on low PP now. So instead of using 3 bites, I mix in an acid to put Gengar within bite kill range. The next bite does its job, but not before Gengar gets a paralyze on Arbok, which means the third Gengar I have to face gets a free hit on my Kingdra when I swap out. 3 Gengars because, again, forced evolution. Not that Arbok would have lasted that long if he didn't get paralyzed anyways, because this Gengar has a psychic move. I really should have pulled Hypno out instead of Kingdra, especially since one of Kingdra's attacks misses, but I just don't have the HP in Pokemon to finish the fight, especially since when I do have Hypno out, Gengar hits him with a Destiny Bond, sealing my defeat. My plan was flawed from the beginning. I can hopefully say that I have now truly learned my Poison Dual-type lesson, but that's gonna have to wait until the next installment. Either way, I had an absolute blast, even if this video took me multiple months to make. I had a lot of learning to do both in-game and in editing. However, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, I would much appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. You won't want to miss the rest of this challenge. This video may be ending on a heartbreaker, but my very first run of the game got me all the way to 3 out of the Elite Four. I will make it back here, and I will beat Fire Red. But for now, my name has been Kale. Have a wonderful journey. I will be back.